Hey, welcome to Called to Build. And with me is James Hatfield. He's the Chief Revenue Officer for LiveSwitch. And James and I met the other day actually preparing for another podcast dealing with my marketing company and LiveSwitch. And in that conversation, we realized that we had some other things in common: watches and faith, and our love for combining our business and our walk with Christ. And so I said, we've got to record another podcast behind the first one. So, James, thanks for joining me today.
Carl, great. And we got so much in common. I'm sure this is going to fly by.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. So let's talk about your story. You shared a little bit of your journey with me, and so I'd love for you to just kind of start from the beginning and walk us through. First of all, what your faith journey looked like, and then we'll talk a little bit about your business journey, and then how your journey of life, how that's all come together, and really how that's being lived out today.
Yeah, my faith journey did not start with any faith. I grew up in a faithless family, meaning like we were atheists. We didn't believe in any religion. In fact, we called it Santa Claus in our house. Hey, don't ruin it for the kids. Let them have fun. They're not hurting anybody, typically. Um, but we just kind of like, hey, they're community members, treat them right. And that's how I grew up. I mean, that's all I knew. And so as life goes along, sometimes things happen to you. I grew up with triplet friends, identical. We did everything together. We went to basketball camps, sleepovers, learned how to drive together. These are just my neighborhood buddies that we hung out after school every day, and really got close with them. The issue that they had was they had a disease called cystic fibrosis. And back then, your life expectancy was 18. Now it's up to 40 or 50, thank God. Um, but everything was fine, and we just live our lives like it was going to end at 18, right? But then at the age of 19, my first triplet friend passed away, and it really impacted me. I'd never been really around death that much, and I really didn't know what to do with it. At 19, I'm trying to figure out life. I'm trying to run my business, and I'm trying to keep my head on straight, and that was hard to do. And I ran to a lot of different things, and me and the other two brothers, we were like, let's go do something because we just didn't grow up with much. So we decided, hey, let's get on an airplane. My grandfather had an old truck, and we were going to drive it across the country from Arizona back to North Carolina. That was our big goal, right? So we get our first airplane tickets, and we we're getting ready to go. But then the second one gets in the hospital, which happens all the time. They go in the hospital, they come out. It's nothing usually, but it just wasn't getting better. It wasn't getting better, and then it was time to leave to go and get the truck. And he was like, "I'll just go. I'll be here when you get there." So me and the other triplet, we hop on first plane flight, and we're landing in Dallas, and they meet us at the end of the thing when you're coming out, and they say, "Hey, you got to turn back around. This is not your brother ain't looking good." So I end up going to Arizona by myself to get this truck. He goes back to North Carolina. By the time I get back, my buddy is not in good way. They had to do an incubator tube. It's tough. They help you breathe. They go in through your neck. It's really not good. And I saw that, and it really crushed me. And then he came due for a little bit for another day, and then that was it. And so it just so happened that I went through this thing back in the day. Mental health was never talked about. It was always just rub some dirt in it, right? And so I just, would go, and I was going down a bad path. Things were not going well for me. And one day these gals, they just say, "Hey, you ought to come to church." I was like, "I ain't never been there before." They're like, "Why don't you try it?" I was pretty open to trying anything, even stuff I shouldn't be trying. So I went to church for the first time, walked in. They're like, "What'd you think?" I was like, "I don't think this is for me at all. That's not for me." And they're like, "Well, why have you ever read the Bible before?" I'm like, "Nope." I'm like, "You should do that." They're like, "But why don't you start in the book of John rather than Genesis?" And I was like, "Okay, I'll do that." So I sat down every day and I started rewriting the New Testament by hand. Almost rewrote the entire New Testament except for Revelation. I was kind of spooked out by that one. But I looked up and I decided, hey, I don't know what I'm doing with this thing called life. I'm going to see what Jesus says in John 6. If you follow me, you'll know the truth, and truth will set you free. I find that to be Jesus' money back guarantee. Although he was telling me some things as a red blooded American male that I'm like, I can't do any of this stuff, but I'm going to try because life was off the rails. And that started my journey into faith. And boy, did Jesus change everything for me. Everything.
Hmm. Yeah. So, you had this life-changing experience, and then part of your story you shared with me is you got into the trades and got good at the trades, and then found out all of a sudden you had a business, and
Yeah. I mean,
that led you into technology.
that's right. That's right. I mean, Jesus, I guess he was an accidental business guy too, right? Mr. Carpenter,
Yeah,
so working with your hands.
yeah, and so not really the journey maybe you thought you were going to set out on.
No, not at all.
Let's talk a little bit about that, because I think for most of us that's that way. I started as a police officer, and that's not where I ended up. And so I definitely a different course of life than what I set out on. So talk a little bit about that journey. The journey that he's taken you on professionally.
So I didn't grow up with much, like I mentioned earlier, but I did know how to work with my hands. Father built his own house that we lived in. Grandfather, he's always a hardworking guy, and I was the same. So I decided to work with my hands, and my father's big dream was for me to be a plumber. My grandfather's big dream be a painter. So I became a painter, launched my company, had multiple crews, grew that, and we just go paint houses. I like to work quietly with my hands, so I have something to share, right? And again, follow Jesus' methods. And so I started building that out and going to the bookkeeper, and the bookkeeper would speak English to me. And I'm like, I don't understand a word coming out of this person's mouth. I don't think that's good. I probably need to understand my money, because I became an accidental business owner because I could really take care of people's homes. And so I was like, maybe I should go to business school. So I went to business school. I was running my businesses. And upon graduation, I met another guy doing the same thing, except he built some kind of technology where we could take an income statement and balance sheet, run it through, and you would understand in plain language what it was. I was like, this is awesome. He's like, do you think you can sell it? I'm like, I don't know. I can sell painting. Maybe I could sell that, but I'm really passionate about it. So I started doing that. And we took that company from an incubator to Inc. 500. We were one of the fastest growing companies in the country. And now it's a multi-billion-dollar company that we sold. And so, but that allowed me to get into philanthropy, and I started planting churches. And that's a whole nother story that we'll probably talk about as well. But went from there, bought another company, the company right now. I mean, I got to speaking of police officer, I got to help reinvent the 911 phone call with the chief of police in Washington, D.C., and it became a tool tradespeople are using. And now thousands of people are using this product. I woke up at 3 in the morning and invented, and I still can't believe it. I mean, it's been amazing. Another wild ride of these tech companies they are, but I'm having a good time. But I think I enjoy the church planning just as much too. So I know I'll get into that.
Yeah, yeah. So let's get into that, because that's actually how this conversation got started. Because that's my passion, as well uh, as I think I told you on our original call. I do this to support the kingdom gig, and so let's talk about how you got into the church planting, and how that got started, and how God awakened that in you.
Yeah, God has a weird way of planting seeds in us in a moment. We're kind of listening, but we're not listening, right? Like when I was scaling that fast growing company I was telling you about, where Inc. 500 became a multi-billion-dollar company, I had this wonderful little lady in our church. She came up to me, and my wife's family's out here in the mountains of North Carolina, and she had a house in the mountains of North Carolina, and she just subtly said in church, passing, "Oh, you should go and start churches in Asheville." I was like, never doing that, but thank you, never doing it. But the years go by, and I had a moment where, when I was starting to get to know Jesus, where I was living, my living situation wasn't really good for American red blood male. So I started living in households that would help me to kind of say no to the extracurricular things, the social studies, as they say. And so because I got to spend some time in other people's homes, I decided, hey, I opened our home when I had one. My wife and I were happy to do it. And I came home one day from work, and I'm used to hitting goals. And this college girl was like, "Man, you don't look all that happy." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm frustrated." She's like, "Well, you should quit your company." And I'm like, "Ah, you think all this pays for itself?" But it triggered something. I sat down and I wrote down what my priorities should be, what my divine order should be, and what really it was. Because even walking with Christ, we can lose our way some ways, right? And get drift off. I was like, this is not good. So I told my business owner, I just got to step away from the business. This ain't good for me. And during that time, it allowed me to get thinking, and I was driving to a wedding down in Atlanta, and I'm with a buddy, and I'm like, I told him, I was like, I think God is calling me to plant churches. Do you want to go with me? And he had his big job in the Raleigh area. And by the time we got to the wedding, we're going. So we started telling our wives, friends, families. I was helping out with our teen ministry, and so they were all like, "Oh, we'll go to college there." So a very small group of us decided we. This is 14 years ago. I just had my first daughter was born. We start moving out to the hills of North Carolina, and start meeting in a house church, and that's where we got started, following a dream. And oh boy, has it been 13 years later? I got more stories to tell, but that's where it started. Just some little cute older lady planting a seed that God planted. I firmly believe it.
I think that's awesome. My journey started with an older man that met me at the door of a church and asked me a 30-second question. So I get that. So let's talk about that first. The first one you planted. Um, where has that led you since? So where has that journey taken you?
Yeah, I think when you start a church in a living room, it's hard to see what God's going to do with it. You're kind of like almost feeling life support at first. You're like, well, here we are. God, here we are. What are we doing? And so we just start meeting needs in the community, start partnering with nonprofits, serving, not letting the left hand know what the right hand's doing. And God does what God does. He adds to the number. So he just did bringing people around. And we were like, okay, we kind of outgrew a living room. Let's go to just a community center. Because I didn't want to buy a building because I was like, I don't know what God's going to do with this. Like, we might become some big mega church, or we might become so small in a month, like we back to the living room. So we start meeting in these community centers. Very humble, so humble. Wow. Was it humble? So we started doing that. God adds more. And so we're growing. We outgrew the community center. And like, well, where else can we go? So we start going downtown to the art museum. There's this modern art museum. Like, they're not open on Sunday. Maybe they'll let us sit in there. We'll pay rent. So now we're having church in a modern art museum of all places. I'm like, all right, God, we start growing again. We outgrow that. So now I'm like, well, where else can we go? Oh, the Seventh Day Adventists, they're not using their church building on Sunday. Can we use your gym? So we're like this gypsy church, and we're posting up in the gym, and now the whole gym's full of people. And I'm like, oh. And we started missing. Well, what happened is we ended up starting connecting with a guy most probably everyone knows, Francis Chan. Francis had big church, back to China, came back, said, I don't think this is it. And he started going back to the living room. So we started getting really influenced by that. Like, oh yeah, that's our origin story. And so we start connecting with Francis a lot. He has these conferences. We start getting to know him. His We Are Church conferences, and we're just learning. Like, we don't really know what God's up to, and we're just learning. And then we start like, well, who else are doing this, house church movement thing? So we start finding these other house church movement, like Tampa Underground, Kansas City Underground, and any books we can find on it. And there wasn't a whole lot, but enough to kind of, oh, and so we put it before the church saying, we think God's up to something here. I think we were going to take a whole year to fast and pray, but I think he's trying to decentralize us instead of bringing people to church. I think he wants us to bring church to people. And so, I mean, we told people like, hey, this might not be for you. It might be scary. It's okay. There's other faith communities in our area here. We're not trying to be a big mega church, like go find where you need to go, but we're feeling called. But we didn't want to force the church, right? And maybe we weren't hearing the voice, but the church got on board. And so it's been about 4 or 5 years now. We started going micro. And so we started raising up lay leaders, microchurch pastors, single men and women, married couples. And we just let God kind of do his thing. And we started with 3, not so micro church, but and then we started just doing it once a month. Let's ease into the pool. Then we started doing it twice a month. Then we started raising up more microchurch pastors, and now we're up to 6 microchurches, and then a 7th one that we just launched, which is really out there. So we started taking all the microchurches. Now we meet in microchurches every week. We get together for celebration Sundays every now and then, and we serve. And some of microchurches meet in group homes, some meet in nonprofit areas, some meet in the parks. We just meet wherever God wants us. And we started taking the church through John Mark Comer's Practicing the Way. And the first practice we did, instead of doing it in a month, we do it in 4 months. We took 4 months on prayer. And I'm learning these new prayer practices. And one of them is listening prayer, which I've never really done. And I didn't really know how to do, but I was like, all right, I'll do. I love talking to God. But now I need to listen. So I'd go out in my backyard every day for 15 minutes. Say, God, I'm making myself available. I'm just going to listen. If you got something, I'm all ears, but I'm not going to manufacture it. Like, I don't want to force it. So I want God to do what he's going to do. I go out a bunch of times, nothing. I'm like, I'm going to keep trying here, Lord. And eventually he's like, I want you to go back into the hospice. Because my family and I used to sing before COVID. We'd go and sing to hospice and people dying on their last day. Then COVID shut it down. Then we're in Asheville, the hurricane shut it down and it finally reopened. And my wife is usually not into stuff that I bring towards her. She doesn't like change. I was like, honey, I think God is whispering in my ear that we need to go start a church and a hospice, which doesn't look good on a church growth paper, by the way. Like the money side of it doesn't look good. The adding people doesn't look good. They're dying the same day on paper. And I'm like, have you heard of anyone doing this? No. I'm like, I haven't heard of this. I only heard, I think the voice of God telling me. I don't know. So I start testing it. I was like, this is what I'm thinking. And the whole church got behind it, like, do it. So we've been doing this the last 3 months. So we started a microchurch and a hospice.
I love it.
Jesus is in the building. We've done it now for 3 months. And I can't tell you, and my kids, oh my goodness, praise God for my kids. I'm wheeling them in, and I mean, people are right there getting their last breath. People just die right before you get in there, and the family members are there. I've sung over dead bodies now. Oh my gosh. It's crazy. And it's Jesus. Like, we go in, start singing Amazing Grace. I've had people just from dead sleep wake up, start singing with us.
Mhm.
And then the husband's holding the wife, and the husband's getting ready to pass, and the wife's crying. The whole family's in the room, and we just show up, and we get way more than we give. And I have no idea. Like I told our microchurch, I'm like, I have no idea what God is going to do with this. It might be for 3 months, 6 months. It might be our forever home. I don't know. But when Jesus is calling, I gotta go. I'm
Yeah.
not that kind of guy. Like I mean, sometimes he calls and I swing and miss. Don't hear me wrong. I don't walk on the water. Last I checked, but I do believe Jesus is pulling me into places that I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm just willing to say, "Here I am. Send me. Let's do it. Let's giddy up. Let's go."
Yeah. Yeah. So, with that, he's also put you in the marketplace.
He
So
sure has.
how do you see him working in your life in the marketplace these days?
Yeah, a lot of people. So I'm out there. Our company's growing really fast. I've had big growing companies. I'm on stages a lot. I'm training now. I train a bunch. I'm part of the Breakthrough Network training home service owners, and I use a lot of Jesus language in my teachings, whether I'm running the companies, whether I'm coaching, training, and it's one of those things. If you know, because I've had people I've never heard that before. I'm like, okay, and then every now and then, if they want to find out, or someone will just mention God or, oh, that's a blessing, or they'll mention it, and I'll bring it up. Like in business, I don't mind bringing up religion. It's done nothing but amazing things. Like I'll be teaching some of our new sales team, and they'll be on a sales call with me because I love to talk to customers or prospects, and we'll get right into it. So it's, oh yeah, God did, and I'm like, oh God, you know, and then start sharing stories like I'm sharing now. We'll end up. I mean, I've prayed with more prospects. I mean, my sales guys are like eyes wide open. They're like, I've never had that happen, and we pray for them. Like, what can we pray for? Right? And it's been awesome, like teaching people, but also Jesus is so bold. Like Jesus leads with the truth. So even in my management style, I'm like, gird your loins. I'm about to tell you the truth that no one's told you before, because I think wounds from a friend can be trusted, right? And so I mix all of these lessons and teachings in, but I don't force it on people, right? Like I don't. I want to come in there and like a whisper, but then man, God really opens the door for it. But being in the marketplace doesn't mean we don't have to be about our boss, the Lord, right? So,
Mhm.
and if I don't win a deal because of it, and I've had to say no in our mission statement. Like we do live streaming video. You can imagine the type of people that companies that I've been asked that we power them, like adult streaming. And I have people in my company They're not faith forward at all. And they're like, "Are you telling me if someone came with a $30 million deal to stream this adult entertainment, you would turn it down?" Like, not only would I turn it down, if we accepted it, I would leave and I would just stop. And there was some heat around that because some like, "What are you talking like, you wouldn't take 30 million?" Like, it's tough. These are crucial conversations. But we got to a place where they're like, "All right, I can support this." I'm like, "I'm gonna put this in our mission statement, what we're not gonna do." And so it's difficult sometimes where you gotta kinda lean in and say no to certain business deals and walk away from those deals, and so be it. I'm not gonna compromise my ethics. I'm not gonna compromise to get money. I wanna win his way. If I'm supposed to win it all, he is a God of abundance. But I also don't wanna have like this, faith to wealth gospel either, a prosperity gospel, but he is a
Yeah.
God of abundance. So it's that tension. Jesus always has that beautiful tension. But I really love, taking Jesus's teachings into the marketplace.
Yeah. Uh, do you find, I think in my own experience, um, my business really is just a conduit for his resources.
Mhm.
So often it's, a catalyst for other things. And really just a pipeline, is probably the easiest way to describe it. And That's the thing I always find fascinating is, even like meeting you the other day, I told my wife, I said, I told her how our conversation went, and I said, God's just so cool. He just, even when we get done talking and recording here, there's a few things I'm going to share with you that you've already discussed that it just, oh Jesus, you're just so cool. The way he connects people, the way he puts things together, and I'm sure you probably see the same thing. What are some of the, if I were to ask you, your Jesus highlight reel, uh, what are the cool things you've just literally tripped over that he's put in front of you just as you've gone along, uh, making tents, if you will, um, in your entrepreneurial journey. Uh,
I'll tell you a marketplace business one, and I'm gonna tell you a personal one.
okay,
So, I'm in Asheville. We got hit by Hurricane Helene. I was flooded in. I had took 6 days to find every church member. I had to do some wellness calls. We had some of the church members' neighbors die. See bodies floating down the river. We did river rescues. One of the folks had to be cut out of their roof as the water came all the way up and saved his life. Um, just almost flooding a biblical proportion. We've never seen anything like this in the community. Well, I happen to be really a big thought leader in the self storage industry, and I was putting on a self storage virtual conference with all the who's who's and thought leaders. And we charge a little money because if you charge a little money, people show up. We don't. It's not for revenue, but we put it out there, and everyone found out me as the host of everything, what I was going through, and to the person and to the entire industry, they all were like, "Let's give all the money from the virtual conference to this, and then let us know how we can help." And I mean, we raised a ton of money, and because the microchurches are so close to the very vulnerable, we were able to get that money right to women's shelters, to group homes, to people that could take the money and do the right thing with it because we were already there. And so, because of the commercial connections that I had in the marketplace and the Jesus connections that we had in the community, it just made something beautiful that only Jesus could do. And these folks that gave money to self storage weren't giving because of Jesus; they just giving out of their hands, but they didn't know that all that money from the world was being placed in the hands of Jesus's tools. And so, it was really great. Um, so that was huge. Another highlight reel moment. Hopefully, I don't get too emotional with this one. Um, so one of my friends in college, like as I was going through business school, I got to meet him, and he's from the Asheville area, and he went on church plantings to Greensboro, and he always wanted to plant churches in Asheville. And then we found out I was doing it. He couldn't do it at the time because he was a teacher and things were going on. But he's like, one day I'll be there, and we're gonna keep building that church together. And he's a mountain man. This guy has hiked the entire AT. Like on New Year's, he's doing solo paddle trips to remote islands. I mean, he's a grizzly bear, you know what I mean? And we've done crazy trips together. And we have girls that are the same exact age, a wife. We're all met kind of in that like in that time of life. And he finally got us out here. We're doing the thing, and we're going through where we need to hire staff, and we're hiring staff together. And as we were going through the interview process, New Year's was coming around, and he's going on his annual New Year's trip where he's, you know, kayaking to a solo island. And as he was coming back the next day, we hadn't heard from him. I hadn't heard from him, hadn't heard from him, and eventually found out he drowned because an Arctic bomb had come down, and when he capsized, your natural reaction to cold water is just breathe in, and he died. And that was really brutal. I mean, burying him was really tough. My wife would go up every Tuesday and spend the night. The girls, I had them every weekend, and it just became an extended family during this time. Well, prior to this, I like music. So you see my guitar behind me. I like worship in our church. I do a lot of singing, and I start to date a guitar before I buy it. I just want to make sure it's right. Well, I kept going to this guitar store, and there was a salesperson there, and we kept talking, having life talk, and I found out about his life, and I got to share about what Jesus had done for my life, and I gave him a card, and then 6 months go by, and this is all prior to my other friend passing away. Um, this guy reaches out and he said, "Hey, um, I want to reach out to you because you're a good person. I know you haven't heard from me. You probably don't remember me, but can we get together?" So I'm like, "Sure, I can get together." And so we get together, we have pizza, and he had just gotten out of rehab. He almost died. His father this is an older fella. He previously married, gone through divorce, has multiple kids, and he just struggles with addiction. So I start walking with him. I start showing him Jesus. We start getting close, and one night he comes in. He's like, "You've been showing me all about Jesus." And he's like, "I've been thinking a lot." He's like, "I want to tell you something." He's like, "I always told my daughters that I would live for them. I mean, die for them. Excuse me. That I would die for them." And he's like, "Dying's the easy part." He's like, "It's the living for them that's hard." And he's like, "I want to live for them, and I want to live for Jesus and for them." And I'm like, "That's awesome," because this guy had been coming to our Thanksgivings. He's been coming to our Christmases. Like he's been adopted by our family, and but he's a big musician too. But he had come up after he became Christian. He'd been coming up with me to my buddy who died in the kayaking accidents. Property. We're tooling around. We're country boys. We're on dirt bikes and things, and we're making a fire on top of the mountain there and singing to God. And then my buddy who passed away in the kayaking accident, years had kind of gone by, and this guy that I met in the guitar store that came from nothing, he's like, "Hey, do you think I could take my buddy's old wife on some dates because he was single?" I was like, "You're a grown man. You can ask her. She's a grown woman." He was almost like asking permission, like, "Is it okay?" Like, I was like, "Of course." And so they end up going on dates, and now they're married.
Mm.
And so what's crazy is to have been just as I go planting seeds in the community that this guy is now married to my best friend, one of my best friend's wives. So that blows me away every time. Anyway,
Yeah.
those are a few highlights of many. I mean, I could go on. This podcast could go for hours of Jesus highlights of like, check this and check this. I mean, I have story after story that will just blow you away because he is real and I'm an atheist. I was an atheist and I'm a
Mm.
believer, and I can point to things that are just like, it's not random. That is not random. That is
Yeah.
only the Lord, including how my life turned out. So anyway,
So you've brought your children along on this journey with you.
yes.
What are some of the things that you've been intentional about imparting to them
Yeah. So
in your
we
faith?
we homeschool, and so it gives us an opportunity to do a lot of things. The only reason we homeschool is because my parents were never around growing up, and I was like, when I had my first daughter, I was like, I won't miss a meal. So if I can't run my business in my the marketplace from home, I'm not doing it. It ain't worth doing. And so I've been home based for 14 years, even before COVID, because I just made that commitment. And so um, one is I want them to see and know their father. That's big. Two is we get to go serve in the communities. My daughters scoop food for ladies going through really tough times, and they're with kids and they're front line. Three. my wife grew up, so God is God. He brought me a woman, right? So I met her through Jesus. She grew up as a missionary's kid and grew up in the jungles of Indonesia, and they grew up very poor, having nothing. And so they were building homes and sharing their faith in Indonesia. And they had a speaker come one time and talk about adoption. And she was a little girl, and my wife's not a dreamer, but they were talking about adoption, and she pulls on her mama's little dress and says, "Hey, mama, I want to adopt when I get older." And her mother's like, "There's probably something we can't do, or you won't be able to do. You don't have any money." So she's like, "Well, I'm going to start saving." So she's been saving money since she's a little girl to adopt. And so we got the opportunity to adopt our son. And so that's been great. And we're in a multiracial family, which is great. And so you can look at our family immediately like, okay, something's different about this family. And it points back to my wife's dream of adopting. And then we were done after 3 kids. Like 3 kids was like, I can't believe I have 3 kids. This is crazy. But time goes on, my kids are older now, and then we get a call from the adoption agency like 4 years later saying, "Hey, that same birth mother and birth father are having another one, and they want you to have her." And we were like, I mean, my first reaction was like, "Oh, I'm so tired." I didn't. My heart wasn't there in the beginning. It took a while, and counting the costs. Eventually, was like, "All right, God, is this who you want us to have? We'll take her." And then the adoption agency says, "Hey, sometimes things happen, so just be aware." And so then the birth family kind of was like, "Oh, we're going to keep her." So then I'm watching my kids go through these emotions of like, "Oh, we're having her, then we don't," and they're like, "But hold on, just know that you could get a call later on," and we got a call, and like we had to get on an airplane the next day, and we ended up signing all the paperwork. My daughter was just coming out of the NICU, and they're like, "Don't go in the hospital. We'll bring her to you." And I'm adopting my daughter in a Barnes and Noble, and she's
Oh,
the size of
wow.
a peanut. She just went through a NICU, and she's been fantastic. And just watching my family with her and her with my older kids, and just watching that and just seeing what God is doing, is incredible. And working through my wife's dreams and just seeing how God builds. It's been incredible. And the adoption stories, and when you look at I have so many things like going around with my children. My children are African American, so you can imagine I get some questions in the community, but it's been really great, and that also opens doors for Jesus and conversations like we're having now, just because of my family coming on the scene. So God continues to do incredible things, and uh, yeah, like a crazy story is when my wife was in the Philippines, they used to serve the poorest communities, and this one gal lived in a tin box, like literally a cardboard box, and she had been a little girl, and she would call my wife's family like Papa Marcos and Mama Papa, and like, but her family was all kind of getting gone, and she saved up every little penny she could and bought a one-way ticket from the Philippines, and somehow we still can't. It's like only God. She she came and found them, and now she's grown up here in the States. Basically, they adopted her, so we've got the full rainbow of colors in our family. And I'm like, just look at our family. Like, you tell me if you see Jesus. I want you to see Jesus, and I'm not doing that I did not plan this out. Like, I could tell you stories of why, but like, here it is. I want you to see Jesus in my finances. I want you to see Jesus in my language. I want you to see Jesus in my family. And not to show off. I'm just trying to follow him. The only reason you see him is because I hang out with him. I'm cool by association. So these are just uh, things that he's building, and I'm just sitting back and watching God do what God does, which is
Yeah.
amazing.
So what is the current dream that he's placed on your heart? Like, what's the thing that keeps you up at night?
Mm. Well, this hospice piece has been huge. Being around so much death, right? Growing up, my story that everyone's heard now. I just have a big heart um, for families that are losing their mom, their dad, their kid. Um, I mean, I've gone through it. So I think Jesus says he takes the sting out of death. So people are very vulnerable in that spot. And so I feel that like if I can be one, the Walmart greeter to heaven, that'd be great. And two, a resource. And we do it very gentle and soft. Like we give little gift bags with things that the hospice care center said is good. And then we put just a little thing if you need anything, like need us to sing at a funeral, have any questions, really subtle, just a little mustard seed in there. And we'll see. So my dream is to see what God's dream is with this. It's kind of I'm like I still am trying to figure out what God's doing, having me roll into a hospice because I could take my family and God has given me a lot of talent, if I can say that as humbly as possible. So I could go and like, hey, I'm on a, what do you want me to do? Build bigger ships and bigger barns. And this is not what, in my mind, the business guy who's built some of America's fastest growing businesses, the ideal for scaling Jesus's business, right? And so that's been one. And then the other one is we've been learning a lot of formational practices, um, ancient practices like these thought prayers and lectio divina and breath prayers and walking labyrinths with prayer. And we've been creating as an organization these formation retreats, bringing people from all over the country and getting educated in it. And I've just experienced so much good from these formational pieces, like this John Mark Comer practicing the way as a great example of something to lean into. But also these older from all types of denominations. That's the other thing. Like I'm not attached to any denomination. So I can take the meat, leave the bones of and there's so much good. I think we have these denominational headbutts sometimes. I'm like, don't it's not worth getting in arguments over our doctrine. There's so much more, we're so much more alike than different. And let's not plant our flag there. Let's plant our flag on Jesus' lordship and loving loving him. Like if we were walking towards the well of Christ, hallelujah. Like I don't care where you're coming from. I was on the mountain back there. You would never have gone after the atheist, but I just started walking toward him, on my own. So that's been really great too. I hope to break down and see more breaking down walls. And Jesus prayed for unity and all these different things. And if we can all just get along a little bit more in those and get off the doctrine high horse. I think that would do us a lot of good, and I think that would bring a lot of joy to the Lord. So there's some few dreams of many that I would love to see.
Oh, that's good. And for the people that are listening out here, that God's given them a passion for the kingdom. He's given them a passion for business. They're trying to figure out how to put those two things together. What advice would you give to them?
Yeah, I think in business sometimes we think, oh, when I've made it and I got all the money, I'm just going to go and serve. I'll be on the Lord's payroll. Don't do that. That's a chasing after the wind. You're not guaranteed tomorrow. I've watched people die that I thought would be around a lot longer. So you don't even need to have any money. At last I checked, the woman with 2 copper coins, she's pretty broke. You could be in debt, full big time in debt, up to your eyeballs, worrying every day about it. I've been in debt before. I've missed rent checks before my business started really taking off. I've been there, you know, but now is the time to give. Well, don't wait. Like find local community. Find one person you can help. And it doesn't have to be with money. God, well, maybe he didn't give you 2 hands and 2 feet. Take what you got, take what you got, serve locally, and give locally. There's so many needs across our country, across the world too. If you feel compelled to go overseas, that's great too. I mean, that's what my wife's family did, but I also feel the mission field is right there in your backyard. Might even be your neighbor, you know, go cut their grass. I don't know. Like go serve now and don't use the whole, oh, when I make it and I'm on the Lord's payroll, I'll do this, that, and the other. Don't wait. He might be coming back in 10 minutes, I don't know. You
Hmm.
know? So
Yeah, that's great
let's do that.
advice.
That would be my advice for everyone in this situation.
Yeah, that's great advice. Well, James, thanks for sharing your story with us. And if somebody wanted to connect with you, where can they do that?
LinkedIn's a really good spot. Just look up James Hatfield, and my business is LiveSwitch, LiveSwitch, and just find me, reach out. I'll make time for anyone listening. I
All
won't
right.
ignore you.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for joining me today. And to our audience, thanks for joining us on this episode of Called to Build.